Pulse of Story podcast. My name is Derek Christopher. I am so excited for today's guest because she is really one of the great teachers of myth and story and storytelling. She's a mythologist, she's an author, she's an international speaker. She's written many best-selling books like Inner Drives, The Power of the Dark Side, Symbols, Images, and Codes. She travels around the world. She does consultations worldwide. And I'm so pleased to welcome to the podcast Pamela Jaye Smith. Good to see you, Pamela Jaye.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm honored to be here. Looking
Now,
forward
I'm
to it.
I'm really excited to have you because I think that you approach myth and story in a different way than most people. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you sort of treat myth as an internal engine, not just a plot formula. That you sort of use myth to diagnose why characters act the way they do. And you don't just use myth as sort of an external structure. Is that pretty accurate?
You are exactly right. Yes. I really like the definition of mythology as the stories that we tell ourselves to explain the world around us and within us, and to justify the worlds that we have created.
And so how did you develop this? I mean, what was it that brought you to this arena?
Well, my origin story goes that when I was in the fourth grade, we had a teacher who every day after lunch, she'd have us come in and put our little heads down on the desk. And throughout the course of the year, she read to us the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Wow.
Yeah. And I said, I know those people. I live in a small town in Texas. I know those stories. And so I
Yeah.
thought mythology is great. So I was very then tuned into it and, did studies throughout school and then in university. And how I came to start the business, MythWorks, was I was taking courses at the Philosophical Research Society here in Los Angeles. And it was the physics of metaphysics and esoteric anatomy, which is the chakras, and all kinds of metaphysics stuff, and looking at
Yeah.
ancient traditions, from the Hindu, Rosicrucian, Masons, Christianity, indigenous peoples, etc. So getting a real broad spectrum there. And our assignment in this class was to come up with some way to incorporate the information into your business. And at the time, I was producing and directing for the aerospace industry. And we were doing short comedy films as well as, industrials. I
Yeah.
thought, how the heck can we do that? And started looking into it. And then it became obvious. Oh, yeah, myths, their storylines, there are themes. The whole chakra system is wonderful for creating characters. And you got symbols and took it from there.
Well, and I think that that's what's interesting is that you don't necessarily look at what stage of the journey it's at. You're sort of looking at the archetypal drive of the character. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, very much so. I think a problem that a lot of people have with a very structured plot point sequence is that often their story just doesn't naturally fit into it. But what I discovered in analyzing stories was that on a particular mythic theme, you'll have, say, a basic 10 to 12 plot points.
Yeah.
And if you tap into half a dozen of those in your story, you're going to tap into that theme. You're going to tap into that musical key, if you will, or that color palette. So you don't have to hit every one. You don't have to hit them in order. My favorite example is from Apocalypse Now, where the every story I think is well served by having three specific statements: the thematic statement, the mission statement, and the lesson statement. And they don't always have to come in that order. For instance, in Apocalypse Now, we get the lesson statement first when Captain Willard says, everyone gets everything they ask for. I asked for a mission, and for my sins, they gave me one.
Wow.
And then we get his mission, and it's he's in the general's office, and Harrison Ford is there too. And they're giving him the mission to go upriver and exterminate Colonel Kurtz, exterminate with extreme prejudice. And then right after that, the general gives the thematic statement, which goes to the effect of there's a conflict in every human heart between the dark and the light does not always win. Sometimes the darkness overcomes what Lincoln called the better angels of our nature.
Wow.
And that happens in the first 10 minutes or so of the movie.
Yeah.
And then there you go. And going upriver can be likened also to rising up through the chakras as you raise your consciousness and you start out at the lower ones typically, make your way up. But there again, in any path of initiation, you don't always do things in order.
Yeah.
Now, you're supposed to, but some people come into the system already advanced in one area. They come in already advanced in one area, so they don't have to go through that much. And taking a look at those archetypes or archipaths
Yeah.
and the various levels and then how they can switch around, it's just a whole lot of wonderful tools that you can use in any way you want to. As long as you're hitting some of those notes, it will resonate for us because they're out there in the collective unconscious.
Now, can characters have conflicting archetypes? Can they be made up of conflicting archetypes? And how does that work?
Absolutely. In fact, one of the tools I use is I've called it the archipaths.
Yeah.
And this comes out a lot of the wisdom teachings of various systems. And those 5 archipaths are the warrior, the scientist, magician, clergy, and lover. And
Oh,
as you go through training in some of these deeper metaphysical things, you work on one of those and then the next one, then the next one. And most of us are a combination of, at any one particular time, one main one and then an adjacent one. And
and then I'm sorry, can I just interrupt real quick?
oh,
So how do
absolutely.
you know when you're developing a character, how do you know which one is your main archetype and then which are sort of the supporting ones? And there can't be a percentage figure. You can't say, well, he's 40% this and 20% that. So how do you know how to mesh those together the best?
That's an excellent question. And I also do archipath consulting for individuals. So it help people figure out what myth are you living? What path are you on now?
Yeah.
And for a character, a lot of times it will be, well, what is their profession? Okay, like Captain Willard was a warrior.
Yeah.
And he was now here's where it gets even more complicated, but better for us as
Yeah.
creators, right? And particularly actors love this stuff.
Yeah.
So for each archepath, you've got 3 levels. So for the warrior, you've got the soldier, and then the warrior, and then the regent, or the general, or the king or queen, whatever.
Yeah.
And then with each of the paths, also, you have 3 approaches: the emotional, the mental, and the synthesized. So even if you just have a character who's always on, say, the magician path or the lover path, you can still move them around up and down the levels and hopefully get them to the synthesized space of combining both the mental and the emotional. And then you can also work in the ancillary archepaths. And sometimes people switch totally.
Yeah.
And they've been a mom and then they go to work for the CIA. And that's real different. Or the various combinations. And that's where I think a lot of the really interesting character development comes in, is when you have a character moving up and down chakra levels or the archepath levels and going from maybe and even put two people in conflict. One is on the mental side. No, you got to be thinking. You have to have critical thinking. And the other one says, no, you got to feel it. You just got to feel it. And then there's conflict.
Yeah.
And then how do you resolve that for either or both of them or not? So it's a really rich toolkit to work with.
Well, and this seems like you can apply it to sort of any genre. I mean, even
Mhm.
in if you, for example, a rom com or a love story,
Oh, yeah.
if you've got two characters going down different archepaths, how do you work on characters to sort of you if you have one character go on a multiple archepaths and then you have another character doing the same thing, how do you sort of mesh the story that their paths sort of meet and make sense together?
Good question. It's not going to be very interesting if you've got both characters on the same path at the same level and in the same
Right.
stream. That just,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, great, get along, have fun.
Yeah.
But having them be disparate. I mean, just even think of like a seesaw. They're on disparate levels
Yeah.
as well as different approaches to anything that they're doing. You can emphasize this a lot with the words they use and the styles of acting and the styles of speaking.
Yeah.
And so when I teach this to actors and directors, I'll show clips and then also show, just have them act it out and say, okay, now say these lines. So I'll have like a half a page scene and get two people and say, okay, now you're going to do this from this position and you're taking this position for this other character. So let's see what you do. And they'll do that and say, okay, now we're going to switch. Now, this time you're going to be on this path at this
Ah,
level.
yeah.
And their demeanor changes, the way they phrase things changes. And you can even think of, well, for instance, if you put a scientist arc path with a lover arc path, typically the scientist is going to go, well, it's all very logical. It's just chemistry, you know.
Yeah.
No, you have to feel it. Don't you feel it? Oh, it's just
Yeah.
wonderful. It's yeah, it's all chemistry. Here, let me show you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Now, no, but as a writer, then, I mean, the actors are going to interpret the material one way, writers are going to do
uh-huh.
it one way, and the directors are going to do it one way. If I'm writing something, how can I best sort of flesh out my characters that they're bringing in all of those archetypes that
Mhm.
make them a fulfilling character?
Well, you have in the work that I do with the archipaths in seminars and the handouts and information about that. And I am working on a book about how to use the archipaths also.
Great.
Uh, there are styles of speech and styles of action for each one.
Yeah.
So, for instance, somebody on the warrior path is going to use harsher words, more forceful. Someone on the scientist path is going to be they're going to speak more distinctly. They will use more scientific terminology. And with clergy, it's going to be more about devotion and idealism. So even if you say, take a sentence and then write it from each of those five different points of view, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
And someone, go back to the warrior thing with let's just say the king and the serf, but then not serf, but a soldier. So
Yeah.
the king and the knight, let's say. But they're still coming from different places. So even when they're giving you information, one of them is going to be more regal and haughty, and they will be commanding about how they tell you what they want. And the other one would be more conciliatory, let's say, or more pleading. It's a power structure thing.
And is that where the conflict emerges?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And especially with people's ambitions
Yeah.
and with who they think they're supposed to be and what situation they're in.
Yeah.
And story I love to tell about this is when we were studying this, we were on the warrior archipath, and you would do that for a couple of weeks. And the teacher said, now, you don't have to dress up in camo and carry a sword or anything. You can still be in the warrior mode. I thought, yeah, okay, fine. So I went to have dinner with Prime Minister Maggie Thatcher, me and 300 other people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Leave that part out. Yeah.
yeah. And I was all dolled up, girly, froofy hair, fringy dress, high heels, blah, blah. And my date had on a tuxedo, but he had, bless his heart, broken his ankle. So he was also in a wheelchair. So when we
Yeah.
got to the hotel, a very nice bellhop said, oh, tell you what, I'll take you up in the service elevator because you don't want to have to do the stairs. So he did, got us in the elevator, took us up there, and got my friend out of the elevator. And then he turned to me and he said, good evening, sir, and saluted me. And my friend who knew what I was doing says, wow, that stuff really works.
Yeah.
I was going, yeah. And then about a week later, I was at a cocktail party for one of the corporations, and it was casual.
Yeah.
And there was a guy just about to leave, and I hadn't met him yet. And he came over and introduced himself to us. And I said, pardon me for asking, but are you in the military? And he said, no, I'm an actor and I'm going out for a role in
Oh,
JAG and I've been trying to get into the mood.
that is great.
And he did.
That is so funny.
Yeah, it's patterns. It's patterns.
Now, just for my own curiosity, I'm wondering when you're out in public and you're just having lunch, do you look at people who are sitting around you and think about what kind of archetypes they are or who
Mhm.
they are and how they work together in the world?
Oh, yeah. And that's one of the assignments that I give people who are studying this with me. I'll
Yeah.
say, next time we meet, you bring in a report and try to find at least 5 examples on the different paths or different
Wow.
levels of a path. And once you start, the cool thing about patterns is once you start learning pattern recognition, because you've
Yeah.
produced things
Yeah.
and taken people all around the world and done amazing work. There are
Thank you.
certain patterns. Some of them are already there and you learn how to use them. Others, you have to create the pattern yourself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's very magician path. The definition of a magician is someone who can see patterns where others don't and creates them where they did not exist. But for actors and writers and directors and production designers, costumers,
Yeah.
novelists, these are all great, great ancient tools that work really well.
Well, and one of the things I love about your work too is that whereas a lot of people are sort of afraid of the dark side, I think that you sort of say you need to have it. You need to express that creatively to get more depth out of characters.
Oh, absolutely. It's fortunate that we live in a world where conflict is so prevalent.
Yeah.
And we tell stories about the world around us and within us, and there's a lot of conflict in the world. Even more so, it seems, these days, and we know more about it. But yeah, I think the danger in not paying attention to the dark side is it can sneak up on you and get even worse if you don't learn to recognize it.
Well, that's one of the notes I had here was that you said that I think if the dark side goes unexamined, that's a real problem.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it sure does. Whether it's a psychological glitch or something that you want to improve within yourself, or situational with family, with friends, with your coworkers, societies, governments,
Yeah.
large organizations that affect the world. But yeah, it's there and it's better to, well, like Sun Tzu, the Chinese strategist, wrote, know your enemy.
Yeah. And then what about when you suppress archetypes? What effect does that have? And is it a natural thing, or can you sort of artificially suppress the archetypes in your story?
Well, I'm going to flip that back to you and say, are you thinking of a specific example about artificially suppressing it?
No, you know what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find a path where it'll bring the conflict up, that if you're dealing with a certain archetype, what is it
Mhm.
that you could do to
Oh,
suppress who that person is naturally, what energies they're bringing to the character? And can
mhm.
you create drama out of that, or does that come across as artificially doing it? I'm just sort of trying to figure out what the game plan is when you're trying to use all these archetypes and archepaths.
Yeah. Um, in the breakouts that I have, there are the goals for each of the paths.
Yeah.
And then there's the strengths, and then the weaknesses and the fears. So, yes, there are specific patterns that show up for each of the archepaths. For instance, the warrior archepath, its mission is to protect and defend the weak and the innocent, and to uphold and promote the good, the true, and the beautiful. And right now, we don't see that throughout all of the military warrior activity that's going on right now.
Right.
Any archetype is easily corrupted, and we have to watch out for that. But
Yeah.
suppressing some of those tendencies can, of course, begin to fester. And I think it's interesting that the definition of corruption, in a way, is something that gets rotted out, and usually from the inside.
Yeah.
And whether it's a rusty machine or a structure with termites in it, when you have corruption, it, it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
And suppressing parts of oneself can be corrupting.
Yeah.
And it's often very unfortunate. We have a lot of good stories over the years about people who have tried to suppress their inner darkness, let's say, and it doesn't always go well. I think a thing to remember here with what you're asking is,
Yeah.
in The Power of the Dark Side, I talk about the three levels of the dark side. And the first level is personal. It's your own foibles, your own weaknesses, your own problems. And sometimes they're justified if you have someone who was abused and they are still trying to get over that. And sometimes it's like, a great fear of heights or fear of snakes, like Indiana Jones. Snakes, why did it have to be snakes?
Yeah.
Right. And then level two is impersonal. So you go from personal to impersonal. And that level is natural disasters,
Ah, okay.
nature itself,
Yeah.
you know, gravity floods, fires, climate catastrophes, um, comets, exploding suns, pick and choose. But the antagonist is not necessarily always a humanoid or a conscious entity. It can often be just blind nature, which you can't reason with. So, how are you
Yeah.
going to defeat it? How
Yeah.
are you going to survive? And then the third level is the big baddies, from Darth Vader in the dark side to,
Right. Yeah.
evil corporations and, the cabals and the conspiracies. And on the spiritual side, the dark ones, the demons, and almost every mythology has that.
Yeah. What kind of myths do you think work best in Hollywood?
Hmm. Well, the American myth is changing. It's still hanging on, but the American myth was always the rugged individual against nature and maybe even the softy parts of civilization.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to go out there and break new ground. And, well, we might wipe out a whole bunch of people while we do it, but hey,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a little too prevalent and not just American.
Yeah.
And So a lot of the individual overcoming obstacles is very American, I think. But what
And
we've been going more to is more of the teamwork instead of the rugged individual. And where
oh, that's
people,
interesting.
yeah, we have to collaborate and cooperate in order to succeed in almost anything.
Yeah,
And it's more so, well, these days I think it's exceptionally important with what's going on in the world culturally and uh, environmentally
yeah,
and financially and, you know, pretty much everything else. So that American myth is shifting. We're rewriting it, we're remaking it. And it seems to be more along, like I said, that partnership, collaboration, teams coming together to save the day.
yeah. Do you think that there's with Hollywood now, because you always hear about the box office and
Mhm.
theaters closing and whatnot, is there a crisis of storytelling in Hollywood now? And why is that? Have we gotten away from what works? Are we relying too much now on algorithms and numbers and less on creativity? I mean, from your take, I mean, you've been a writer, producer, director for many, many years, and you've been in the mix of it all. What's your perspective on where things are going and how it's changed, and if there's a crisis?
Uh, yes, there is a crisis. And I think part of it is to recognize it's not a crisis on lack of story. There's too much out there for people to sort through.
Ah, yeah,
And I'm seeing this come up a lot is that it was one thing when you released your film in theaters, and that's where people saw movies,
yeah,
and you saw TV on a TV. And then there started being the streamers. And, you know, certainly Disney always showed movies on its channel too, etc. But the saturation, the super saturation of media in many, many formats has given people algorithmic headaches.
right,
You know, seriously, what am I going
yeah,
to find? And then you always have burnout too. Remember when Westerns were really big in the 50s and 60s and a little bit into the 70s? And then you couldn't sell a Western for
yeah,
decades. I mean, Cowboys versus Aliens.
right,
Seriously, guys, what were you
yeah,
thinking? You know?
yeah,
But I can see how they sold it just from the pitch, the title.
yeah,
But yeah, I think what we're also witnessing is a lot of runaway production that's been happening for quite some time, where Hollywood is not the only place to shoot Hollywood quality TV and
right,
film. And so many other places now have very, very attractive incentives, from Louisiana to Texas to Georgia to Vancouver,
yeah,
no, and England, Croatia, Morocco,
yeah,
India, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So factor that in with, I remember being at Universal Studios back in the early 80s. And it was when the control of the studio system and the networks was shifting from storytellers to attorneys and accountants.
right,
And the emphasis shifted, and you saw it in the quality of what was being turned out.
yeah,
And you're seeing a lot of that now too, when you get the burnout from superhero movies because the studios just kept, hey, they're making money. Let's do another one. Let's do another one. Let's do another one. And
yeah.
eventually the audience just goes, we've seen them. We've seen them all. But yeah, except Star Trek seems to be still going on pretty well.
Yeah.
They've got something going for them.
But
Yeah,
how
it's
do you
changing.
Yeah, but how do you? I mean, when you have such it's spread so thin.
Mhm.
I mean, how do you maintain a quality of story? How do you
Yeah.
maintain a quality of character motivation and development and get people to understand? I mean, a lot of what you teach, how do they understand, about inner drives and archetypes and mythic structure and whatnot if they're not trained? I mean, I've had this conversation with many people that there seems to be a fear of training writers to understand these things. And that's also been part of the problem of why the quality has gone down.
Well, now you must tell me some examples of that.
Well, I think, Dara Marks made a great comment when we did a roundtable. She said, if you want to be a ballet star, there's certain moves you do, there's certain techniques you're going to do, there's certain practices you're going to do. As an actor, you can do acting, and that's all perceived as fine. But people, I think, sometimes writers are afraid, like, well, it's got to come natural. I have to be a natural writer. I'm not going to listen to McKee or
Mm.
Truby or Pamela Jaye Smith because it's all. But like anything, any art form, there's an amount of training that I think you need to have.
Absolutely. And I have heard um, someone was saying, I'm taking this screenwriting class, but they're not teaching us screenwriting.
Oh,
The professor's just up there telling stories about their own experiences or Hollywood legend stories, and we haven't learned anything about
yeah,
technique. And geez, it's here's part of the problem I think maybe is that if you've ever taken a script and followed it all the way through onto the screen, whether you're in production, the production office, you're the prop master, you're the caterer, but you see how you go from the words on a page to images on a screen.
yeah,
It's like a blueprint, and it has to have a structure that holds up,
yeah,
even if it's a 3 minute web series episode. And a lot of people have not been able to have that experience. Many, many more are now, and that's
yeah,
great. But I think it's the idea that the screenplay that you write is the finished product. No, it's not.
right.
It's not. It's a blueprint. And it's a collaborative process to enliven what you put on the page. So part of that may be that just lack of exposure yet. But as more and more people are doing their own media, which is fabulous,
Yeah,
making vertical dramas on their smartphones, right? Or creating web series
yeah.
all the way along. It's great. It's great. The opportunities are fabulous. But indeed,
Well,
you got to have technique.
but I love what you do because I think you approach it from such a different perspective. And when I think about what you teach and what you talk about, to me, it adds so much depth to what the characters can be, what the story could be.
Mhm.
And I have such an appreciation for that because it's almost like taking your story or your script and looking at in 3D. When you,
Yes.
I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Yes, you get a whole lot more depth in your characters and in your plot and story and how it looks also. If you are using these mythic tools that have been around for thousands and thousands of years, and an example of how that works is think of a fractal image.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
okay, so let's say you're tapping into the big fractal of star-crossed lovers, and you've got Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet ballet, right? Oh, that's big. But you
yeah,
have all these little fractal swirls, and you can write a little story way out on the fractal edge, but you still tap into, if you hit some of those plot points, you're still tapping into that big entity of the star-crossed lovers, which the story shows up in almost every culture
yeah.
that you care to look at. So there is a depth, there is a resonance there that with some techniques and some tools of storytelling and some structuring, you can tap into it. And a lot of people do it naturally, and then you refine it.
Right. Now, when you're doing a script consultation, what is it that you're looking for initially in
Mm.
that script?
I'm looking for what story they're trying to tell. So I look first for the mythic theme.
Okay.
And
And
often people,
can you
well,
define mythic theme?
yes, I'll give you some examples. One popular mythic theme is the wake up call. And that's the story of like, Moses and Luke Skywalker, King Arthur, uh, Aaron Brockovich in a way.
Yeah.
You think you're this, and then a challenge comes, and you rise to the occasion or not. But the wake up call is a really, really powerful mythic theme because it also echoes the wake up call mythic theme also echoes our psychological development from
Yeah.
childhood to adulthood,
Yeah.
presumably. Some people make it, some of us don't. Who knows? But
Yeah.
yeah. And the search for the promised land is another big one that you'll find in most cultures as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes the people searching for the promised land are not even of this dimension or of this universe. I mean, you've got all your alien stories too. And of course, the star-crossed lovers, the search for the soulmate, and the path of initiation, which we talked a little bit about. Another big one, literally, is war in heaven, where you've got two power structures battling for control. And whoever wins, it's going to affect everything
Yeah.
within that realm, if you will. And you can see this in, city politics, international politics, the Crusades, religious
Yeah.
wars.
Yeah.
And it seems to be something we keep on doing.
Yeah.
So many, many mythic themes. And
So
I,
you get the mythic theme, and then where do you go from there?
well, usually what is obvious to me, because I'm, looking at specifically for that, is what is the mythic theme for their main storyline? And then what is the subplot mythic theme?
Yeah.
And typically, a writer calls in what's called in esoterics, you call in the creative energies from the rain cloud of knowable things. And as an artist, you're just naturally built to tap into that.
Yeah.
So you bring it down, and sometimes I don't even know what it's going to be about, right?
Yeah.
But then you start applying some of these tools. But often it helps to have somebody else look at your work and say, "Oh, this reminds me of so and so." You go, "Oh yeah, of course it does." So bringing an idea down from the creative plane, inspirational plane, to the mental plane, where you analyze it, see what could be done better, and what to bring in, what to put in, and then the emotional plane, where you have to be enthused about it, or nobody's going to care.
Yeah.
And then into the physical plane, then you get stuff on paper and stuff on screens. But helping people realize what it is that they're really trying to say, it's usually in there somewhere, but recognizing it and then showing it to them. And then typically they'll go, "Oh, yeah, yeah."
So is it safe to say familiarity is a big part of using the mythic tools, that you creating something original, but you want something that's familiar to people that they can relate to?
Absolutely, Doug. You are so right. I say there's two elements you've got to have in a story for it to be good: familiarity and surprise.
Ah,
Why do
yeah.
kids want you to read them the same story every night for a year and a half?
Yeah.
And they watch Frozen until they just wear it out.
Right.
But yeah, familiarity, we crave familiarity, and yet we also crave surprise.
Yeah. And what for you? What has there been anything recently, either in the theater or on TV, that you've really been impressed by their use of mythic structure and archetypes? Like, how do you break new ground? I guess is what I'm wondering.
Well, let's say you're doing a star-crossed lover story
Yeah.
and ancient, or you're doing a war in heaven story. You've got your basic structure is that conflict, and the for the war in heaven, it's the head-on conflict, or surreptitious sometimes when it comes to it. But you know kind of what's going to happen for it to be that kind of a story.
Yeah.
But then you add in twists and turns that maybe it looks like, oh no, this person, they're not really after that. They're just trying to accomplish this. And then you find out, no, it's the
Yeah.
diplomat was very good like that.
Yeah.
And the surprises at the end of each of the seasons were very well done, where you thought, and they thought it was going a certain direction, but then it turns out, oops,
Yeah.
nah, nah,
Yeah.
tell me that didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in the star-crossed lovers, there's a cute French series called, I think it's Heartstoppers, and it's about two boys in high school, and one of them knows he's gay, and the other one doesn't know that he's gay. And
Oh, okay.
so, yeah, so you've got the star-crossed lovers, and one of them is the nerd, and the other one's real popular, and he's a sports star. And so, getting the two of them together, and sometimes their friends disapprove, other friends are supportive. But seeing how they made that work over a couple of seasons was very impressive. It's charming, it's heartfelt, and you see the pain that the boys go through to try to
Right.
become who they truly are and be together. So I would say both of those, the diplomat and Heartstoppers, are good examples on those two particular themes
Yeah.
of familiarity and surprise.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Pamela J. Smith, I think, when I think about the A list of people out there, I think of McKee, Truby, you, Mark Travis, all the guys. I mean, the amount of value that you bring to people and their stories. I encourage everybody, please go buy Pamela J's books. Reach out to her on her website, which is mythworks.net. And then you also have mythicchallenges.com.
Oh, yes, just a bit about that. Mythic Challenges create stories that change the world. Some years ago, two other colleagues and I got together and put together Mythic Challenges to address the 15 global challenges as identified by the Millennium Project and the United Nations. And we came up with a program that would address these by giving the filmmakers or storytellers appropriate mythic themes and archetypes and symbols. And one of the mythic challenges, for instance, is on water. And you can go to the Mythic Challenges website, and we have a gallery of the videos. Our initial project was for Los Angeles High School and their sister school in Afghanistan.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. And so giving the kids those tools and to see what they came up with, amazing. And
Wow.
with so many problems going on right now, we founded this in, I think, 2011. And oh my gosh, you take a look at those 15 challenges: rich poor gap, the environment, clean water, tech, democracy, science and technology. They're still there and they're getting even more
Yeah.
problematic. So,
Yeah.
a way to use your storytelling skills to improve the world. And what I do see out there too, Derek, when I'm doing pitching services for clients as well as
Yeah.
our own, so many people are looking for stories that have social justice as a theme and
Yeah.
ecology and the environment. So there's a big market out there for that.
Well, and there's really no subject or genre that you wouldn't touch. I mean, the mythic tools can be applied to everything.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It definitely can. And uh, a story is a story is a story.
Yeah, yeah,
And some of the biggest, most popular ones are on the dark side, whether it's Sinners, with vampires,
yeah.
and or the closed room mystery, or what's called contained horror,
Right.
which is music, rather a movie business term for cheap,
Yeah,
easy to make.
yeah. Makes money.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's funny. Well, Pamela J, I mean, I think you're brilliant. I think you're a genius at
Thank
what
you.
you do, and I'm so glad that so many people are reaching out to you and that you have your hand involved in so many projects. And I thank you so much for being a guest on the Pulse of Story podcast. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation, and it's always a pleasure to pass on these wonderful old story tools that still work so very well.
Yes.
And we're all the better for people using them.
And definitely reach out to Pamela J at mythworks.net. And for the Pulse of Story podcast, I'm Derek Christopher. Thank you, Pamela J. Smith, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye bye.